We're live.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome, everyone, to another filming of House Then the Car. I am so excited. We are still celebrating our birth month today. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, House in the Car.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. We are so excited. I put up my public service announcement that you'll see in my backdrop. It says Happy Birth Month, House in the Car. I don't know if everyone remembers or if it's just me because I am, of course, an ex-centennial. If you remember back in the days when there was a public service announcement come across the TV, it would look like that. So that's what this is for those of you millennials that are on here today that may not remember. But we are so excited to enter into our series 4, make that change. And that is exactly what we're doing, is we're making that change. Our last week we had the man in the mirror with none other than our Bishop James Dixon, who brought all the heat. He brought all the heat.
Yes.
And this week for episode 2, we are even more excited. And it's a family that saves together, achieves forever. And I think that subtitle really resonated with me, Stephanie. I don't know. You tell me, what did you think?
I think that should be a staple in the community because we're not taught to save as a family. I have learned from other cultures that do save. I mean, they're really, they're in one house and they're all saving together. And then they help the next person and they help the next person and help the next person in their family. So we have to get our culture accustomed to saving together so that they can have these big achievements also, so that they can build wealth, so that they can have a legacy to leave to their family.
I agree. So, of course, when coming up with the topic, because we spend so much time, Stephanie and I, trying to make a decision on episode 1, episode 2, series 1, what are we going to talk about? When coming up and making that decision on what we're going to talk about, and when we started talking about savings, we couldn't ask anyone else to our virtual sage but Freddie Mac.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so today we have with us our very special guest, Miss Marlena Scott, who joined us earlier today on our Millennial Talk Tuesday episode, which that show was phenomenal. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of background for Marlena. She is a single family client and community engagement manager at Freddie Mac. She is responsible for managing and developing industry relationships. She is committed to bringing awareness to Freddie Mac's offerings to support responsible lending, provide sustainable home ownership, and to improve access to credit for all borrowers. Marlena has over 14 years experience in the financial industry. She has began her career at Bank of America, so did I, where she spent 8 years, and in 2014, she joined Freddie Mac. So we'll trade some stories about BOA.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I honestly feel like I'm with family right now because I really support, I said this to Stephanie earlier, what you guys have done with House in the Car this past year is awesome. You should be so proud of yourselves. It is a success, and cheers to many more years.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hear that. We all work together, like you said, we work together so often. It's like, and now we can't see each other, face to face in person, but the Zoom has helped a little bit. But of course, I'm definitely still looking forward to being able to touch you, hug you at our national conference or our midwinter conference. But as always, Marlena, I am so excited to have you here today. And I guess we will just jump right into it.
Well, just like I said earlier, we did have Marlena on our previous show, which is Millennial Talk Tuesday. So from there, we talk to our millennials and we want to hear about their fears. We want to hear about their obstacles. And so we had a special guest on today, Kira Seal, who is the sister of one of our co-hosts, Leslie Ann Seal. So she expressed her fears and her desire to be a homeowner. Well, Miss Kira thought that she needed 10% down. So in an effort to, educate her, give her that push and that confidence, Marlena was there to explain some of the products that Freddie Mac offers and let her know you don't need 10%. We have some 3% programs out there, 3.5%, just things that'll let you know. And of course, that budgeting feature to let her know that, hey, when you're budgeting and you're saving, you're on the right track. And she's definitely on the right track. And she has the assistance of her realtor sister to guide her along the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that is one of the myths that we need to debunk, and evidently we need to talk about it on every possible platform, which kind of leads us into our millennial conversation. Today's day and age, everything is just right at your fingertips. You can type in on the computer, log on, get all the information that anyone can dream of. I mean, we've become early age doctors with MedLife or
WebMD,
WebMD.
WebMD.
Yeah.
But the same thing for home ownership. Unfortunately, some of the information that's published is old information, and people don't necessarily know who to contact, who to call to make sure that they have the most up-to-date and accurate information. Which leads us to our millennial conversations. Our millennials at this time are very hesitant with moving forward in home ownership. One of the reasons being is they've seen family members and friends being foreclosed on. So let's discuss some of the things that we can do as a family to increase our savings to kind of reduce that impact or the feeling of hesitation within the millennial community.
Yeah, so what I would say first is to have an honest conversation about what you're trying to achieve and planning, saving. In order to save, you have to plan. And I think the scary part is, as a millennial, when you realize, hey, I didn't start doing that. I don't know where to even begin. And then you talk about that with your family and everyone's on the same page. But it's okay. It's okay that you don't know what exactly to do, but it's important to start and figure it out for you and for your family. So understanding your financial picture, understanding how much you can actually save and stick to that plan. I think that's the biggest piece of it. And talk about the importance of whatever the goal is, which is home ownership in this case, and how you plan to save for it over the next 12 to 5 years, however long it takes. And again, back to Stephanie's previous comment, there are products out there for 3%. So you don't have to save for the 20%. It's more, home ownership is more attainable than maybe what people think. Mm-hmm. And another piece of savings that we really don't talk about, but savings is putting into your 401k. If your family if your company offers that, that's a part of your savings. Put into that, because whatever your company may match, that's free money. We don't want to leave free money on the table. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can tap into your 401k to have down payment resources that way as well. So just really talking about planning, don't be scared of where you're starting at. It's as long as you start, that's the key.
Marlena, I like how you said about the financial picture, because and then you also mentioned knowing how much you can save. Letitia and I talk about this client all the time. We were finding out different things where she can save. She was spending $400 a month on cigarettes. So when you take a deep dive into your budget to figure out how much you can save, you'll be surprised at what you can do and how far you can go with your savings plans to achieve home ownership, because $400 savings that, a month, you'll really have enough for down payment in no time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that we titled this "A Family That Saves Together Achieves Forever" is because of one of the words that you said in your statement, Marlena, is plan. And I want us to definitely go back to that, and I want to discuss this a little bit further. I know Freddie Mac has tons of resources that focus on planning and financial planning specifically. They also, what I love about the Freddie Mac book, and I wish that I could just have tons of them in my office, but one of the things that I love about the Freddie Mac book is not only does it give me a budget, it also asks me for my short-term goals, my long-term goals. And what I had to do is I had to myself bring my kids in so that we can sit down and talk about the family's goals.
Mhm.
So let's talk about planning, because you don't wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to buy a house and expect to be successful with it.
Yeah. One thing that Kira had down pat was planning, and that's, I commend her for that. But you have to identify what your goal is for your family. As head of household, what do you want your family to represent? What do you want to give back to your family? So laying all of that out and talk about what your goals are. And the Credit Smart, the Freddie Mac Credit Smart curriculum actually does identify goal setting as one of the key steps to planning. And then from there, you again want to identify your financial picture and talk about it as a household. There are expenses for school that come up. There are expenses just for any repairs or things that are needed. Set realistic goals based off of what your current household actually goes through. And from there, you talk about, okay, so we want to get into a home. What things do we need to cut out? And most of the time, people will look and see that they are frivolously spending and they can actually save a significant portion of their money. If it's not your car, now I know we need to get house in the car, but we do have car payments as well. Student loans or groceries and utilities, you can look at reducing some of that extra cost somewhere.
Yeah. What are you seeing when preparing these budgets? Like, what areas are you seeing as the largest expense that an individual could get rid of?
I mean, I hate to say it, but these cars, I just don't understand how we're saying that we're going to spend this much money on a car that depreciates in value. So whatever, I'm just going to say $800. Your car payment is $800. That car is not even worth that anymore. So now you've essentially just wasted money, if you will. Another thing is, I mean, student loans, it takes up a lot of portion of our budget. That's realistic. I don't know how that's going to change. And that's something, we really need to talk about, but it does not keep you from home ownership, because when you have student loan debt and you have finished your college degree, you are now going to have higher earning potential than someone who does not have a college degree. So that is a positive look as far as credit is concerned. In addition to that, subscriptions, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Etsy, all of those things, people don't understand. They might be $12.99 or $10.99, but that can eat away at a budget. So do you really need all of these subscription services? And just, ladies, we love makeup. So, and that's, I don't know how that's going to change, but.
I'm interested. I didn't know that subscriptions was, but you know what? After I think about it, you're right, because I canceled my cable and then I got Netflix, and then there was an opportunity to get Stars or something. And then when I thought about it, I was like, wait, this is almost
you could just
the
have
same
cable.
Exactly.
Yeah, it adds up.
It does.
Right. So those are good things to know. And again, all of that goes back to planning. So let's sit down with the family. Let's discuss with the family. When I decided to cancel the cable, I asked the boys. I said, because I have two boys and they were teenagers at the time, and I said, do you guys mind if we cancel the cable? And they said, well, what do you watch on cable? And I said, you guys don't watch cable? And they're like, no. So all this time I had this crazy cable bill supporting children that didn't even watch it. So I guess family communication is important before you start family planning, before you're able to save.
And family is not just the family that's in your house, because Letitia and I are family. And so I told her, hey, I'm about to cancel this cable.
Yeah. Do we want to tell everybody how we arranged that?
Oh no.
Yeah, so there are other ways to have cable outside of it being your bill. Now, in taking us and while we're talking about budget and budget preparation, budgeting is generational. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
I do.
And if we start today, we talk about all the time, well, I wasn't taught that. I wasn't taught this. I wasn't what Stephanie says, if you know better, you do better. So with budget being generational, I would say, and I definitely urge those of our listeners to start today. Now, I'm not saying to be as excessive as I am, because I balance my budget again every month. Every month I go back in, add, subtract, just to see what I'm looking like for the month. And maybe you don't do it every month. And I also have like a miscellaneous section where I can basically do what I want to do with my miscellaneous. And if it's gone, it's just gone. But Marlena, how often do you advise someone analyze their budget?
So I think you have to always, have that starting point. And because you are just starting, maybe it's just for the month. And you say, I'm going to just try this out for this month and see if I, stick to this goal. And at the end of it, you're looking and you're saying, oh, well, I was able to achieve it. Or maybe I didn't do a great job, because budgeting is discipline. If you are not disciplined, you will never succeed in budgeting. And then it's just a matter of maybe it's 6 months at a time. I always say start small, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself, but you have to start, and you have to, as families, it's important to instill that in your children. Because, we always, like you said, we talk about, Letitia, that we weren't taught it. Well, now we have to start teaching our family. We have to start teaching, not even just our kids, our parents maybe don't do it, our aunts and uncles, whoever it is, but just starting to have that conversation and just always review it. Maybe it's 3 months, 6 months, whatever plan is going to work with you. The key is to sticking to that plan and set realistic expectations, because if you're head of household, you have to account for any emergency repairs, you have to account for all of that. So it is really good to have that robust conversation on a realistic planning, budget, savings plan, strategy, if you will.
And it's about a mindset too. When you're budgeting, you have to have a mindset to be disciplined, to stick to that plan, and understand that it is a sacrifice. So if you want to achieve your goals, there is going to be some sacrifice involved. And that's where that mindset comes in. And that's why we have to have the conversations with our children. That's why we have to have the conversation with our parents, our cousins, our aunts and uncles, because if everybody in your circle is on the same page, then you have that, like Miss Clara said on the last call, just your team. You have this good team that's behind you and that's supporting you. So
with all of that being said, Marlena, what do you include on a budget?
So you would include, your your house expense right now, whether that's rent or your mortgage, your car, your telephone bill, cell phone, if you will, Wi-Fi, cable, all of your main bills that actually are required to live. Okay, well, cable's not really required to live, but but your major utilities, your student loans, we talk about this again, but those are your main budget items. And then your insurance, of course, you have to factor all of that in. And then from there, so it's your needs versus your wants, basically. So what do you need to survive each month, and what are you just wanting to have? Whether that's, again, the subscriptions, your shopping budget, I don't even know what else it's something else excessive out there, but you know what I mean? As long as if it's not in the needs part, it's something that you can easily remove from your budget. But that's the main idea of what to put in there.
Gotcha. So your needs, and then what about those things that you just refuse to give up? You mentioned makeup, you mentioned a few other things. And then, of course, as Stephanie knows, we have our one client that, we kind of forced her to stop smoking. But what about those things that you just refuse to give up?
Well, maybe it's a modification. Maybe it's just you're not cutting yourself off cold turkey. Because, someone who smokes cigarettes, they're not going to be able to stop cold turkey, right? So it's just maybe saying, hey, I don't need 1 pack, maybe, or 2 packs, I need 1. So it's modifying whatever that you want to have so that you can keep a realistic budget. Right. And you're not depriving yourself of anything, because who just wants to, live to work? I mean, that's all you're doing, and then not really have, at least some small joys on your way to home ownership.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna give up my Ratchet TV.
You're not gonna give up your Ratchet TV.
Our Ratchet TV shows. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep that cable.
Some of those pleasures, I think, when it's all work and no play, you eventually get tired of working. Which, because right now this whole show, all of this is about the family, the entire family. And again, when preparing your budget, you have to take into consideration that it's not just you that you're preparing the budget for. Even though you may be the preparer, there are other people that's in your household that you're preparing this budget for. So the budget must look like your family, right? If you have children, you may have daycare. And I know that I've worked with a few people that have children and they're paying child support, and they're saying, oh, well, child support will be over in a year. Well, it's great that it'll be over in a year, but your budget is for today. For the one time I advise people to live for today. When preparing a budget, you live for today. So because of that, now what we can do is within a year, we can replace that with something else, but the fact is it's there. So how often, and I know it's the same thing with Weight Watchers, you go to Weight Watchers and you're not supposed to eat that cake, so you don't write it down and think that it doesn't exist. How often do you see individuals pretend as though they didn't just spend money on something that they probably know they shouldn't have, and don't write it down on their budget, and at the end of the month it's an issue?
When I was younger, I used to actually do that. I would be like, oh, I went to the movies, or I went out to dinner. I don't need to write that down. It was a small amount. And then, like you said, at the end of the month, you're like, oh, I am short $50 or whatever it is. But it's just really important to be honest. I mean, what is your goal? Like, I believe home ownership is an ultimate goal, right? You are changing your mindset, as Stephanie said. I think that'll help, understand that you do have to put everything down. You do have to be honest with yourself, or else you're actually going to set yourself up for failure. And no one wants to fail. It's okay if you do. And I think that stress needs to be taken off of people when they're planning for their budget. You're going to do it 6 different times before you actually get it right, until you figure out what's good for your household.
I agree. I completely agree with that. I do think that whole, don't write it down. I know at least when I was growing up, and Stephanie's my age as well. Marlene, I'm not going to throw you under the bus like that. Stephanie, you're actually a few years older than I. But when we were growing up, we had a checkbook with the check registry, and we had to write everything down in effort not to be negative at the end of the month. And I think that was powerful, because so often, again, people pretend, or right now you're not writing it down, you're just waiting on it to clear the bank. And I have heard so many times, okay, well, that should hurry up and clear so that while I still have the money in the bank. Well, it's a part of, you're not writing it down. It's out of sight, out of mind. And that actually leads me to the next point of conversation. And of course, this may need to hold off until we have NAPAC 1947 on. But one of the things that I am seeing more often is payday loans. And the unfortunate thing about payday loans is the amount of interest that's being charged on the money that an individual borrows from a payday loan. And I'm not saying, oh, don't get a payday loan, but it's one of those loans that's easy to get, but it's close to impossible to pay off. And not sacrifice yourself for the future. So what I love about Freddie Mac Credit Smart is it draws a line, and it draws a line between those needs and wants. If an individual were to obtain a payday loan to satisfy a need, that's one thing. But I'm almost sure that the majority of the individuals that receive a payday loan are getting a payday loan to satisfy a want. Marlena, let's talk about the impact of that payday loan on your future and being able to meet your future needs?
Well, for one, I mean, payday loans, I just, I understand that sometimes financially people are put into situations where that is their option. But I think that should be your last option, because your indebtedness from that loan can potentially put you into further financial issues down the road. And that is the part that you want to steer away from. That's the part of the reason why budgeting and planning is so important, because that's the last thing you would want to do is put yourself in an even further hole, if you will, because the interest is so costly. Because, I mean, it can't feel good. And I know that it happens, but it can't feel good to say I owe all of this interest on, let's just say $500. I mean, that to me is heartbreaking that those things even exist, to be completely honest with you. But that's why it's so important in getting a hold of your finances, because think about the day that you don't ever have to say, I need to go and get a payday loan. I mean, the reward in that, by just managing what you have and trying to live within that, I think is just, it benefits you and your family in the long run to think that way, and hopefully one day not have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, payday loans, we're coming for you when we have NATPAC 1947, and discussing possibility of any type of regulations, because it is plaguing a large number of individuals. And the unfortunate thing is, when I see a payday loan on a person's credit report, I don't see one, I see multiple. Oftentimes you have to get another payday loan to pay back the old payday loan. And it's very, very unfortunate. But we're going to bring that back up with NATPAC. NATPAC, be ready for that topic.
I'd be scared of a payday loan. I wouldn't even want to touch it.
You don't even want to touch the topic? I know. Well, we brought it up just a little bit in the last piece of conversation where we talked about Credit Smart. And let's specifically talk about the modules that focus on budget and savings, because Credit Smart has what, 13, 14 modules?
12
modules. I mean, it's an entire semester of class, right? If I was still an educator, I would take the Freddie Mac Credit Smart modules and break them up into TEKS and teach my students. However, I'm here with you guys now. I don't hear anyone clapping. Stephanie, why are you clapping?
Hold on. Y'all know she taught 6th grade math, so
don't do me. But at either rate, with these modules, let's specifically talk about the budget and savings module. And I want to give a shout out to our Women's Council of NAREB for doing an amazing job taking these modules down to even the middle school level, middle school, high school, colleges, and just teaching our community with financial literacy. But Marlena, tell us a little bit about these Credit Smart modules that focus specifically on budget and savings.
Right, so there's thank you for shouting out Credit Smart. I learned so much every time I just sit in and listen on a class. I'm like, oh, I had no idea that you're supposed to do that, or I forgot. But basically for budgeting, it comes down to money management. And the several modules walk through the money management. And that is, again, knowing what you have and where you want to go, understanding, how you want to structure and pay off debt and be responsible and manage that correctly. And then, budgeting. Here's the thing, all of that goes hand in hand to help you to have a good credit score and credit profile. Because if you're saving and your credit is bad, there's something missing. That doesn't add up or make sense. So Credit Smart really does a great job of really identifying why credit is important, why budgeting is important, and planning. And again, it goes back to the needs versus wants, and hoping to prepare you better for home ownership. The key is, Stephanie, I love when you said this, it's a mindset. And so when someone is buying or taking Credit Smart, or somebody is on their pathway to home ownership, they have to understand that you're doing this for an ultimate goal. you're planning, you're budgeting, you're aligning yourself financially for this ultimate goal for you and your family. And I think that just really, bridges everything together. But definitely check out the Credit Smart platform or curriculum, and the Women's Council, of course. I'm always so proud because I'm like, there's so many of them, and this is great. And I really think there should be a day of Women's Council Credit Smart training. I swear it should be a national holiday because there's so many of you guys, and it's awesome. Thank you for the partnership on that.
Well, it's funny that you say that because the training is actually going on right now. So I think it started last week, and so it's going to be going on for the next 3 weeks. So the Credit Smart training is going on right now, and it has been offered to our lovely Women's Council members for free. Yeah. So membership definitely has its privileges.
Mm-hmm. And that you say that there was a National Financial Literacy Day launched this year. So shout out to our national president, Chandra Ware, this year. And I was lucky to be the chair of National Financial Literacy Day. And we educated the adults and the youth on that day. It was like a full day of learning. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. So yes. Well, we are nearing the end. And here's where I definitely want to give some tips, tools to our millennial audience. We've already debunked the myth of the fact that you don't need 20% down. Marlene even came through with there's 100% financing program out there. I mean, guys, the one thing that you would need to do is, if you needed to have your wisdom tooth pulled, you wouldn't come see me. Same thing with real estate. Seek your professional realtist. Log on to houseinthecar.com, click ambassador, locate the ambassador in a city near you, contact them and ask them, hey, are there any programs? What's going on? I have $1,000. Can I do anything with that? Whatever it is. First of all, being honest with yourself is important. Second of all, being honest with your realtist is important. They can then guide you from there. But today is specifically about money and achieving as a family forever, saving. So Marlena, before we end and go to the audience questions, what tips, comments do you have to share with our millennials?
So I think just understanding the entire mortgage process. Don't be scared of it. Planning, again, Kira did it great. Planning is key. What is your goal for home ownership? That will then help you decide, well, what do I do with my budget? What do I do with how much do I want to save? Know what products are available. Don't be intimidated by the fact that you don't have 20% down. The average down payment right now is 12% actually. But there are conventional products that can save you money that are at the 3% down through our Home Possible. We even have Home One to tackle any of the home buyers that might have over the certain area median income or be in a higher cost geographical location. So there are options to you, but you have to understand what is available. And of course, leaning on your realtist, leaning on to someone who is knowledgeable in this area. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, because it is a very cumbersome process. You can be very intimidated very fast, but have patience, just keep pushing forward and set goals for yourself. There is nothing wrong with setting a goal of, I want to own a home. And millennials, I'm surprised by this statistic, but a lot of millennials, they want to own a home. It's their dream. So put in the work to make your dream come true. Take that time out to make your dream come true. It's the best investment you're going to make for yourself and your family.
Yes, putting in that work. Putting in that work, Stephanie, and tell us what the audience has.
Well, let's see here. So we have both of our mothers watching. Hello, Loretta. Hello, Carolyn. They're both on. Erica Mosley said, happy birthday, Steph. It's not my birthday. It is House in the Car's birthday, but thank you. I'm a Leo, okay? Tom Nichols wants to know, do student loans count against someone in the same way that a car loan or credit card debt does?
So it's still impacted, or it's still debt. But the debt is calculated differently now by both Freddie and Fannie as far as how it goes into your payments. So for example, whatever is on the credit report as your payment, that is what is considered. If there's nothing there, don't quote me on this, and I can look it up for you later, but it's a lower percentage. So it actually doesn't negatively impact the over debt to income as it once did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I've had my most recent client that is actually, I think that she's doing a 100% financing program. She had to take her student loans out of deferment because she needed a payment. And the payment that they're using is, well, the payment that is recorded is what they're going to use. So, and of course, she's in income-based deferment, but not deferment with no payment.
Well, shout out to Monica. She has put some links in for Credit
I love
Smart.
Monica.
So thanks,
Thank
Monica,
you.
for sharing that.
She always, I call her,
and
she's like Batman. She just comes in and you're like, there she is. She's got it. I mean, I really, you have no idea. I want to shout her out just because she's such a great person to work with. Sorry. Thank you.
You said she's like Batman. I love it.
She is.
Yes, she says Credit Smart is free to everyone, so you can check that out on the Freddie Mac website. She did put the link on there, so if you take a look at our chat area, you'll be able to click on that link.
Awesome.
Oh, was that it?
That is all.
I am very surprised. I'm shocked because I assumed that we would have several more questions for Marlena as it relates to savings, budgeting, and I know that it's a touchy topic. Again, it's funny. So my grandmother said this thing back when it was Foley's. So she was.
I used to work there. Now I'm really telling my age.
Okay. So Foley's didn't send her a bill that month. Well, for her, because of course she wasn't the head of household, so she didn't make the payments. But Foley's didn't send her a bill, and the next month she had to pay twice as much. Well, she didn't understand why, because they didn't send her a bill the month before. So we get into this mode to think that just because we don't see it, that we don't have to do it. But when we talk about budgeting and when we talk about taking our families to heights never seen, we're going to have to do things that we've never done in the past, including insuring or calling Foley's to make sure that you know how much you need to pay them that month. But we have to do those things in a budget. It's your map. How often do you get in your car, even if you know how to get to where you're going? How many of us get in our car and log in the address in the GPS? If it's for nothing else, just to see how long it's going to take us to get there.
GPS.
Me too. I get lost very easily, but
well, that's the exact. You can get lost very easily financially if you do not plug into your budget.
Yep.
Budget, GPS,
right.
Same thing.
No, seriously. I mean, the thing is
that's a good analogy.
Right. It holds you accountable. I mean, we have to take some accountability. We are all adults. We have to stop with the, I can't do this. Yes, you can. And that's the thing. We have to take that responsibility, and putting it into a budget is your accountability partner.
Yeah.
It's holding you to a level of saying, if I work hard and I stick to it, the reward will pay off.
That's right. And we're looking for each of you guys to make that change. That is what this entire series is about, making that change. Today, you have joined us for a family that saves together, achieves forever. And we couldn't ask for anything more. I know what I want for my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren are things that I have never, ever seen before or have began to imagine. So if that is the case, then we need to do some things that historically no one has done before. And don't wear that t-shirt, I'm tired of adulting. As Marlena just said, we're all adults and we can do it. we are at the end of our episode. I want to, Stephanie, Marlena, do you guys have any closing remarks before I talk about what's going to happen next episode?
Happy birthday. I'm so happy to always take part in these conversations. And I think we always need to keep this communication going, because bringing awareness, bringing education is what brings more people to the table. And as a community, we need to keep focused on home ownership.
I agree.
Again, happy birthday, House in the Car. I am so excited to be the campaign manager for this initiative. And next Saturday, our ambassadors are going to be bringing information to you guys. So stay tuned for their live. Actually, it's not live, it's going to be via Zoom. So look for an invite or look for a flyer. It should be posted, if not later today, then tomorrow, somewhere in a city near you. One of the House in the Car ambassadors is going to be putting on a class for you guys, for you to understanding your budget and utilizing the tools from houseinthecar.com. So this is going to be something that you definitely want to tune into, because we keep saying make that change. And in order for you to make that change, you know, I always say when you know better, you do better. So this is some information for you to know so that you can do better, so that you can make that change, so your family can save and achieve together forever.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. And if you don't get anything from the ambassadors, look them up, give them a call. They're waiting on you. That's what they're there for. So again, guys, we started this series off with the man in the mirror. We've moved on to the family. So next week, I am proud to announce we are taking it to the community, because we can't stop there. And then our final episode is going to take it nationally. So join us here, same bat channel, same bat station, for House in the Car, where we're bringing it to our community and support the community that you serve. We look forward to seeing you on next week. We want to thank our special guest, as always, Marlena with Freddie Mac. I absolutely enjoy having you on. I think this may be your third time on House in the Car, and it just cannot be your last time. So thank you all for listening, for watching, and we will see you on next week. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.